The day my sister announced her terminal illness was the same day I found the crumpled hospital bills hidden in Mum's dresser drawer. I remember standing there staring at those papers while downstairs, Hadley's theatrical sobs echoed through our old Victorian home. The bills in my trembling hands told a different story. One of real illness, real pain, and real debt. Mom's debt, not Hadley's made-up drama. I'm Paula, and I've spent 33 years being the responsible one, the reliable one, the boring one, the one who stayed behind to care for our mother while my younger sister chased her dreams and Dad's approval across 3 states. Paula! Dad's voice boomed from downstairs. Your sister needs you. Of course she did. I stuffed the bills into my pocket and headed down. The living room looked like a stage set for a tragedy, with Hadley sprawled across our faded floral couch, her mascara artfully smeared. Dad hovered nearby, his face ashen. Mom sat quietly in her wheelchair, forgotten in the corner. Stage 4, Hadley whimpered, dabbing her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. The doctors say I have months, maybe weeks. I caught Mom's eye. She gave me that look, the one that said she knew better but wouldn't speak up. Couldn't speak up, really, not since her last stroke. What hospital? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Which doctor? Hadley's eyes narrowed for a split second before the tears resumed. Oh, Paula, always so practical. Can't you just be here for me emotionally right now? Dad shot me a disapproving glance. Your sister just got devastating news and you're interrogating her? I just want to help, I said, pulling out my phone. We should get a second opinion. I can call— No! Hadley sat up suddenly, then caught herself. I mean, I can't bear to go through all those tests again. It's too painful. I watched her hand flutter to her throat, a gesture she'd perfected in high school drama class, the same gesture she'd used when she convinced Dad to buy her a car instead of helping with my college tuition. We need to discuss arrangements, Hadley continued, her voice stronger now. The house. Mom and Dad's house. I want my children to grow up here someday. Children? I couldn't help myself. I thought you said you had weeks to live. Paula. Dad's face reddened. That's enough. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Mom wheeled herself into my room. Her left hand, the one that still worked, reached for mine and pressed something into it. A key. What's this? I whispered. She pointed to her dresser, then made a writing motion. I helped her over, pulled out her notepad. Her writing was shaky but legible. Top drawer, blue folder. Inside the folder was a deed to the house, with my name on it, dated 3 years ago. Mom? I stared at her. Why? She wrote slowly, I know my daughter. Both of them. Does Dad know? She shook her head. Does Hadley? Another head shake, followed by more writing. Keep it safe. You'll need it. But why didn't you tell me sooner? Her response made my throat tight. Waiting for the right moment, like now. A text buzzed on my phone. Hadley. Having trouble sleeping. Can you bring me some tea and we should talk about power of attorney for Mom, for when things get worse. I looked at Mom, who was watching me with knowing eyes. For the first time in my life, I felt something shift inside me, something hard and cold and certain. No, I texted back. Make your own tea. Mom's hand found mine again and squeezed. In the dim light of my bedroom, I could see the ghost of a smile on her face. She knew, as I was just beginning to understand, that Hadley's performance was about to meet its match. I pulled out the hospital bills from my pocket, Mom's real bills, showing real treatments for her stroke, her heart condition, her ongoing care. Bills that Hadley had never once offered to help with. Bills that told the truth about who was really sick in this family. I've got you, Mom, I whispered, holding the deed in one hand and the bills in the other. And I think it's finally time we both stop playing nice. Mom's grip tightened on my hand. In that moment, I realized she hadn't given me the deed just to protect me. She'd given me a weapon, and for once in my life, I was ready to use it. 3 weeks later, I stood in the rain watching them lower Mom's casket into the ground. The stroke had taken her quickly, quietly, while Hadley was out shopping for what she called her farewell wardrobe. Such a tragedy, my cousin Edith whispered beside me, both daughters suffering at once. I bit back a response as Hadley swooned dramatically into her husband Kian's arms. She'd dressed for the funeral in designer black, complete with a vintage veil that probably cost more than Mom's entire medical bill. "We should discuss the house," Dad said after the service, as mourners picked at funeral sandwiches in our living room. "Hadley needs security in her final months." I watched my sister accept hugs and condolences, noting how she'd perfected the art of looking sick without actually showing any symptoms. "Actually, Dad, we need to talk about Mom's medical bills first." "Bills?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Insurance covered everything." "No." I pulled out the stack of papers I'd been carrying for weeks. "Insurance denied half the claims. There's $60,000 outstanding." Hadley materialized beside us, her face a mask of concern. "Oh, darling, don't worry about such things now. I'll handle it all after, well, you know." She touched her throat delicately. "When the house is sorted." "The house isn't going anywhere," I said firmly. "Paula." Dad's voice carried that familiar warning tone. "Your sister needs—" "What about what Mom needed?" The words burst out before I could stop them. Where was everyone when she needed rides to chemo? When she couldn't afford her heart medication? "You're being selfish." Hadley's eyes welled with tears. "I'm dying, Paula. Dying." "Prove it." The room fell silent. Even Lincoln, our nosy neighbor who'd been pretending not to eavesdrop, turned to stare. "How dare you?" Dad stepped toward me, but Edith moved between us. "Actually," she said calmly, "I think that's a fair request. Medical records are standard for estate planning." Hadley's face flickered with something that might have been panic before she burst into tears. "I can't believe my own sister would torture me like this. On the day we buried Mom." Speaking of Mom, I pulled out the deed, watching Hadley's eyes lock onto it. "She left me something interesting. Whatever it is, it should go to your dying sister." Dad reached for the paper, but I held it back. "It's the house deed," I said quietly. "In my name. Dated 3 years ago." The silence that followed was deafening. Kian stepped forward, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. "That can't be legal. Julius, you didn't sign anything?" "I didn't have to." I met Hadley's gaze. "Mom owned the house outright after Grandma died. Her name only. And she gave it to me." "You're lying." Hadley's voice shook, but not with tears this time, with rage. "Mauricio," I called to my friend who'd been watching from the corner, "you verified this, right?" He nodded, stepping forward with his briefcase. "The deed is legal and binding. I filed it myself last week." "You bitch!" Hadley hissed, dropping all pretense of weakness. "You manipulated Mom when she was sick." "Did I?" I turned to the room of shocked faces. "Or did someone else do the manipulating?" "I'm calling my lawyer." Kian pulled out his phone. "Good idea," Mauricio smiled. "I look forward to discussing your wife's medical records in court." Later that night, after everyone had gone, Edith helped me clean up the funeral reception mess. "You know this isn't over," she said, collecting coffee cups. "I know." I could still hear Hadley's parting threat ringing in my ears. "You'll regret this. Everyone will see what a heartless monster you really are." "She'll fight dirty," Edith warned. "Let her." I pulled out my phone, showing Edith the text I'd just received from Lincoln. "Ran into Hadley at the mall. Funny, she was jogging. Never seen a terminal patient run that fast." "The neighborhood's starting to notice," I said, managing a small smile. "And Hadley's never been good at keeping her stories straight." "What's your next move?" I looked around the house, Mom's house, my house now, and thought about the decades of letting Hadley take and take while I stayed quiet and responsible. Now, I picked up Mom's favorite photo, the one of us all together before everything went wrong. Now I stop playing the good sister and start playing the smart one. My phone buzzed again, a message from Hadley. We need to talk about the house, about everything, just us sisters. Perfect, I whispered, showing Edith the text. She always did work best with an audience. Let's give her one she'll never forget. Hadley's moving-in party invitations went out to the entire neighborhood a week after Mom's funeral. I found mine taped to the front door. Come celebrate new beginnings at the Hart family home. The date was set for next Saturday. She hadn't even bothered to ask if I'd be home. Bold move, Mauricio said when I showed him the invitation at his office. She's acting like she's already won. She always does. I spread out the stack of papers I'd been collecting. But look at these. Social media posts, time-stamped photos, credit card receipts. Hadley at a wine tasting last Tuesday, rock climbing with Kian on Thursday, a spa day yesterday. Each piece of evidence, another nail in her terminal illness story. The neighbors are noticing, I said. Lincoln's wife saw her jogging at 6 a.m. this morning. Mauricio whistled. Miraculous recovery? More like miraculous deception. I pulled up Hadley's GoFundMe page on my phone. Look how much she's raised for her treatment. That's fraud, he said sharply. We should... Not yet, I interrupted. Let her have her party first. Saturday arrived sunny and warm. I watched from the upstairs window as Hadley directed caterers, arranging everything perfectly on the front lawn. She'd invited half the town, it seemed. Paula, she called up, spotting me. Be a dear and help set up? I walked downstairs and out onto the porch. It's not your house to throw parties in, Hadley. Oh, don't be difficult, she pouted. Daddy's bringing the papers later. We can sort this silly deed situation out like adults. The first guests started arriving. Neighbors, old family friends, even Dad's golf buddies. Hadley worked the crowd like a politician, accepting hugs and sympathy with practiced grace. Such a fighter, I heard Mrs. Lincoln say. But you look so healthy. Alternative treatments, Hadley gushed. They're doing wonders. Though the doctors say it's just temporary, I circulated quietly, phone in hand, recording every contradiction. Beside the cake table, she told someone she couldn't eat sugar due to her condition. 10 minutes later, I filmed her devouring a cupcake when she thought no one was looking. Quite the performance. Edith appeared beside me, watching Hadley demonstrate her new yoga poses to an amazed audience. For someone with stage 4 cancer. Just wait, I murmured. Dad arrived carrying a folder, making a beeline for me. Paula, let's handle this now. Your sister needs... Actually, I raised my voice slightly. I think Hadley should make an announcement first. The crowd quieted. Hadley's eyes narrowed. Tell everyone your wonderful news, I continued, about your miracle recovery. I don't know what you mean, she said carefully. The doctors say... Which doctors? Lincoln stepped forward. My wife works at County General. She's never seen your name in the system. Hadley's smile faltered. I went to specialists, out of state. Really? I pulled out my phone. Because according to your Instagram, you were at the beach that week you claimed to be getting treatment in Houston. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kian appeared at Hadley's side, trying to damage control. What my wife means is that she's been lying, I finished, about everything. How dare you? Hadley's face contorted. I'm sick, I'm dying. Tell them, Daddy. But Dad was staring at my phone screen, where I'd pulled up a video from last week, Hadley doing cartwheels in the park with her friends. I think, Lincoln's wife said loudly, we'd all like to see those medical records now. The party dissolved into chaos. Guests began leaving, whispering among themselves. Some demanded refunds for their GoFundMe donations. Dad stood frozen, the folder hanging limply from his hand. You've ruined everything, Hadley screamed as the last cars pulled away. This is my house. Mine. No, I said calmly. It's not. And if you try to move in, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. You can't do this to me. Actually, Mauricio stepped onto the porch right on cue. She can, and there's more. He held up a thick file. We've documented every fraudulent claim you've made, every donation you've collected under false pretenses. Would you like to see the potential charges? Hadley's face went white. She grabbed Kian's arm. Do something! But Kian was already backing away, his lawyer's mind clearly calculating the risks. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you, and don't come back. As they fled to their car, Dad finally found his voice. Paula, You too, I cut him off. I think we all need some time apart. I watched them leave, then turned to Mauricio. Ready for phase 2? He nodded grimly. The eviction notice is already drawn up. From across the street, Lincoln gave me a thumbs up. The neighborhood gossip mill would take care of the rest. Hadley's house of cards was about to come crashing down, and I'd make sure everyone had a front row seat. The moving trucks arrived at 8 in the morning. I watched from behind my curtains as Hadley directed the movers like a general commanding troops, pointing imperiously at our front door. Dad hovered nearby, wringing his hands, while Kian lounged against their shiny new SUV. My phone buzzed. Mauricio. Police are 2 minutes out. Ready? Ready, I texted back. I waited until the movers had unloaded the first few boxes onto our porch. Then I opened the front door. Good morning, I said pleasantly. What do you think you're doing? Moving in, obviously, Hadley rolled her eyes. Don't be difficult, Paula. We both know you'll cave eventually. Do we? I held up the envelope Mauricio had prepared. Because this legal eviction notice says otherwise. The movers stopped mid-stride. Kian pushed off from his SUV, suddenly alert. Keep moving, he barked at the workers. She's bluffing. 2 police cars pulled up to the curb, lights flashing. Am I? I smiled as Officers Martinez and Reynolds approached. I called them to report trespassing and attempted illegal entry. This is ridiculous, Hadley's voice rose to a shriek. Daddy, do something! Dad stepped forward, then stopped as Mauricio's car parked behind the police cruisers. My lawyer friend emerged, carrying his briefcase. Ms. Hart, Officer Martinez addressed Hadley. We have documentation showing this property belongs to Paula. You were served with an eviction notice last week. She stole it, Hadley jabbed a finger at me. She manipulated our dying mother. That's interesting, Mauricio joined us, opening his briefcase. Because I have sworn statements from Mom's doctors confirming she was mentally competent when she signed over the deed, plus security footage from the lawyer's office where it happened. The movers began backing away, looking uncomfortable. Wait, Kian pulled out his checkbook. How much do you want for the house? Name your price. It's not for sale, I said firmly. You selfish bitch. Hadley lunged forward, but Officer Reynolds stepped between us. Ma'am, please stay back, he warned. Neighbors were emerging from their homes now, drawn by the commotion. Lincoln and his wife stood on their porch, filming everything on their phones. Everyone needs to leave, I announced. Now. You can't do this to me. Hadley's mascara was running, her carefully constructed facade cracking. I'm sick. I'm dying. Really? Lincoln's wife called out. Is that why you were at spin class yesterday? Murmurs rippled through the growing crowd. Hadley spun around, realizing she had an audience. You don't understand, she pleaded. The alternative treatments are working. It's a miracle. The only miracle, I cut in, is how long you've gotten away with lying. Kian grabbed Hadley's arm. We're leaving. Now. No. She wrenched away from him. This is my house, my inheritance. You promised me, Daddy. You promised I'd always be taken care of. Dad wouldn't meet her eyes. I didn't know. I never thought. Officers, Mauricio spoke up. My client would like these individuals removed from her property. You heard him, Officer Martinez said. Everyone needs to clear out. Movers, please reload these boxes. This isn't over, Hadley hissed as Kian dragged her toward their SUV. You think you've won? I'll destroy you, Paula. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. What I am, I said quietly, is done being your victim. The crowd watched in silence as Hadley and Kian drove away, the moving trucks following behind. Dad stood alone on the sidewalk, looking lost. Paula, he started, I should have... Go home, Dad, I cut him off. Just go home. As the spectators dispersed, Mauricio touched my shoulder. You okay? I watched Dad's retreating figure, remembering all the times he'd chosen Hadley over me, all the times he'd ignored Mom's real illness while fawning over Hadley's fake one. I'm perfect, I said, and meant it. But we're not finished. The fraud charges? I nodded. Time to show everyone exactly who my sister really is. My phone buzzed with a text from Edith. Lincoln's wife just posted the video. It's already going viral. I smiled, thinking of Hadley's carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Good. Let everyone see the truth. The morning sun felt warm on my face as I stood on my porch. My porch, my house, my victory. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the responsible sister, the reliable one, the boring one. I felt powerful. Lincoln's wife's video hit 100,000 views by dinner time. The neighborhood Facebook group exploded with comments, old photos, and stories about Hadley's miracle recovery. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. You need to see this, Edith said, bursting into my kitchen the next morning. She thrust her tablet at me, showing a local news website. The headline read, Local woman accused of faking terminal illness for inheritance. It gets better, she swiped to another page. Someone found her GoFundMe records. She's raised over $200,000 in the past month. My coffee grew cold as we scrolled through the mounting evidence. Hadley's carefully curated social media presence was becoming her undoing. For every sad hospital selfie, someone found a corresponding post showing her at parties, restaurants, or vacation spots. Paula! Lincoln knocked on my back door. Channel 7 News is outside Hadley's apartment. You might want to turn on your TV. We crowded around my living room television just in time to see Hadley pushing through a group of reporters, hiding behind large sunglasses. Mrs. Hart, what do you say to allegations that you faked cancer for money? No comment. Kian tried to shield her with his briefcase. Is it true you collected donations while vacationing in Miami? Hadley spun around, her designer scarf slipping. It was for alternative treatments. I'm sick. Why won't anyone believe me? Because we have your medical records, a familiar voice called out. The camera panned to show Dad standing there holding a manila envelope. Or rather, the lack of them. My heart stopped. Did you... I called him yesterday, Mauricio admitted, appearing in my doorway. Thought he should know what his daughter's been up to. On screen, Hadley's face crumpled. Daddy, please. I spoke to every hospital you claim to visit. Dad's voice shook. None of them have ever heard of you. Meanwhile, your mother? He choked up. Your mother died alone in a real hospital because we were all too busy believing your lies. Kian grabbed Hadley's arm. No comment. My client has no comment. Client? Hadley jerked away from him. I'm your wife. Not for much longer, he muttered, loud enough for the microphones to pick up. The news cut to a reporter. Sources say the family's estate, including their historic Victorian home, was legally transferred to Paula Hart, the elder daughter, before their mother's death. Questions are now being raised about potential fraud charges. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Is this Paula? A woman's voice asked. This is Detective Morgan from the Fraud Division. We'd like to talk to you about your sister's fundraising activities. Of course, I said. watching Hadley's meltdown continue on TV. I have everything documented. After I hung up, Edith squeezed my hand. You okay? Before I could answer, my phone pinged with a message from an old high school friend. OMG, remember when Hadley faked mono to get out of finals? She's been doing this for years. More messages flooded in. Former classmates, family friends, even distant relatives, all sharing stories of Hadley's manipulations, a pattern emerging, stretching back decades. The community center is canceling her fundraiser, Lincoln reported, checking his phone. And the church wants their donation back. Paula, Mauricio called from the kitchen. You need to see this email. I walked in to find him staring at his laptop. What now? Kian's law firm. They're investigating whether Hadley forged documents for some of their clients. They want to know if we'll cooperate with their internal review. A crash from outside made us all jump. Through the window, I saw Hadley standing in my driveway, hurling rocks at the house. You ruined everything, she screamed. I hate you. I've always hated you. Officer Martinez's cruiser pulled up before she could throw another rock. Ma'am, step away from the house. Arrest her, Hadley pointed at my window. She stole my inheritance. She turned everyone against me. The only person turning people against you is you, I called down, and you're trespassing again. As the police led my sister away, I noticed Dad standing at the end of the driveway. Our eyes met through the window. He nodded once, turned, and walked away. Well, Edith said into the silence, I guess the neighborhood block party will be interesting this year. Despite everything, I laughed. Then my phone buzzed one more time, a text from Hadley. This isn't over. You think you've exposed me? Wait until I expose you. I showed the message to Mauricio. He smiled grimly. She really doesn't know when to quit, does she? No, I agreed, thinking of the additional evidence I'd been saving. But she's about to learn. The registered letter arrived exactly 1 week after Hadley's arrest for trespassing. Her lawyer was demanding fair and equitable distribution of family assets and threatening to expose my pattern of elder abuse against Mom. I was still holding the letter when Kian showed up at my door. We need to talk, he said, looking nervously over his shoulder. Privately, I let him in, noting how his designer suit seemed wrinkled, his usual swagger replaced by something like fear. Hadley's lost it, he blurted out. She's talking about forged documents, fake medical records, things I helped her with. I can't. My career. Are you here to confess or negotiate? I asked, recording our conversation on my phone. Both? He ran his hands through his hair. Look, I'll testify about everything, the fake diagnoses, the GoFundMe scam, all of it. Just keep my name out of the media? Before I could respond, Dad walked in through the still open door. Too late for that. Kian spun around. Julius, I was just... Trying to save yourself? Dad looked older than I'd ever seen him. I talked to your law firm this morning. They're already investigating you. You what? Kian's face went pale. They're very interested in those insurance forms you helped Hadley falsify, I added, and the medical records you forged. I never... Kian stopped as I pulled out a folder. Really? Because Mom's real doctor recognized your handwriting. Something about handling her insurance denials before? The doorbell rang. Mauricio entered with Detective Morgan. Perfect timing, I said. Kian was just about to tell us everything. 2 hours later, I watched from my porch as the police led Kian away in handcuffs. Dad stood beside me, looking shell-shocked. I should have seen it, he whispered. All these years. You saw what you wanted to see, I replied. Paula! Edith rushed up the walkway. You need to check Facebook, now. Hadley had posted a lengthy screed claiming I'd manipulated Mom, stolen her pain medications, and deliberately withheld medical care. The comments section was a battlefield between those who believed her and those sharing evidence of her lies. She's desperate, Mauricio said, reading over my shoulder. This is good. Good? Dad looked confused. Libel, Mauricio explained. Every false accusation is another nail in her legal coffin. My phone buzzed with a text from Lincoln. Your sister's at the coffee shop, telling everyone you forged the house deed. But watch this. He sent a video. In it, Hadley was holding court at the local cafe, dramatically recounting her version of events. Then Lincoln's wife approached. Weren't you just at the gym? She asked loudly. Impressive for someone dying of cancer. I'm having a good day, Hadley stammered. Really? Because I have a video of you teaching a spin class yesterday. Want me to show everyone? The cafe erupted in angry murmurs. Someone demanded their GoFundMe donation back. Another person called her a fraud. You don't understand, Hadley screamed as people turned their backs on her. Paula's the real villain here. She's turning you all against me. The video ended with Hadley running out, nearly knocking over an elderly woman's walker in her haste. That's assault, Detective Morgan said from behind me. And we have it on video. More texts poured in. Old friends sharing stories of Hadley's past scams, relatives admitting they'd known something was off but had been afraid to speak up. Even Dad's golf buddies were sending screenshots of suspicious financial requests Hadley had made over the years. The DA wants to meet tomorrow, Mauricio announced, hanging up his phone. They're considering criminal charges, multiple counts of fraud, plus the assault charge now. She'll run, Dad said quietly. She always runs when things get hard. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a final message from Hadley. You think you've won? I'm not finished. I'll tell everyone what you did to Mom, how you kept her from getting better treatments, how you stole her money, her house, her love. I'll destroy you, just like you destroyed me. Forward that to me, Detective Morgan said. Threats can be added to the charges. I looked at Dad, still staring at his shoes, at Mauricio, already drafting legal responses, at Edith, who'd stood by me through everything, at the neighborhood that had finally seen through Hadley's lies. Let her try, I said, feeling stronger than ever. The truth is already out there. Speaking of truth, Mauricio held up his tablet, the local paper wants to interview you. Tell your side of the story. I thought about Mom, about her quiet strength in signing over the house, about her final gift of protection. Yes, I decided. It's time everyone heard the real story. Dad touched my arm. I'd like to tell them what I know too, if you'll let me. For the first time in years, I saw genuine remorse in his eyes. Okay, I nodded. Let's tell them everything. The courthouse steps were packed with reporters when we arrived for the hearing. Hadley had already turned it into a media circus, giving tearful interviews about her persecution by her jealous sister. Ready? Mauricio asked, adjusting his tie. I nodded, gripping the thick folder of evidence we'd gathered. Behind us, Dad walked slowly, looking like he'd aged a decade in the past week. There she is! Hadley's voice cut through the crowd. The sister who let our mother die while hoarding her money. She'd dressed for maximum sympathy. Pale makeup, dark circles carefully applied under her eyes, leaning heavily on a cane she'd never needed before. Save it for the judge, Mauricio said as we passed. Inside the courtroom, Kian sat separately from Hadley, flanked by his own lawyers. He wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Martinez looked tired already. Let's begin with the fraud charges. Your Honor, Hadley's new lawyer stood. My client is a sick woman being persecuted by... Actually, Mauricio interrupted, we have something the court needs to see first. He nodded to Detective Morgan, who wheeled in a TV cart. The screen flickered to life, showing security footage from the hospital where Mom had received treatment. This is from 3 months ago, Detective Morgan explained. Watch the woman in scrubs. We all watched as Hadley, dressed in stolen medical attire, snuck into the records department. 10 minutes later, she emerged with a stack of papers. Those were Mom's real medical records, I said clearly, the ones that went missing right before she died. Hadley jumped up. That's not me. I was in Houston getting treatment. Were you? Mauricio pressed play on another video. Because this is from the same day at the Miami Beach Resort and Spa. The footage showed Hadley lounging by a pool, sipping cocktails with Kian. Your Honor, her lawyer tried again, my client's condition is non-existent, Dad's voice rang out. He stood shakily. I have sworn statements from every hospital she claimed to visit. She was never a patient, never diagnosed, never treated. Daddy, how could you? Hadley wailed, but her performance fell flat as Mauricio projected her gym selfies onto the screen. These were posted yesterday, he noted. Quite energetic for someone supposedly in the final stages of cancer. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Kian, you were involved in creating false medical documents? Kian's lawyers whispered urgently. He stood, ashen-faced. Yes, Your Honor. I helped falsify insurance claims, medical records, and donation requests. You lying bastard! Hadley shrieked, launching herself at him. 2 bailiffs caught her mid-leap. As they restrained her, something fell from her pocket. A bottle of Mom's prescription pain medications, dated after Mom's death. Detective Morgan picked it up. Interesting. We've been wondering how these were still being filled. The judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot. That's enough. Mrs. Hart, you're facing multiple felony charges, insurance fraud, identity theft, assault, prescription drug fraud. You don't understand. Hadley struggled against the bailiffs. Paula stole everything. The house was supposed to be mine. Mom loved me best. Did she? I pulled out Mom's last letter, the one we'd found hidden in her Bible. Should I read what Mom really thought? No. Hadley sagged in the bailiff's grip. Please. But I was done keeping her secrets. My dearest Paula, I read aloud, I'm giving you the house because you're the only one strong enough to stop your sister's lies. I've watched her manipulate and steal all her life. It ends with you. The courtroom fell silent. Your Honor, Mauricio said quietly, we have documentation of every fraudulent claim, every forged document, and every dollar stolen through deception. We are prepared to proceed with criminal charges. Judge Martinez nodded grimly. Bailiffs, take Mrs. Hart into custody, Mr. Kian as well. We'll resume tomorrow morning for formal charging. As they led Hadley away, she locked eyes with me. I hate you, she spat. I've always hated you. Perfect Paula, Mom's favorite. No, I cut her off. I was never the favorite. I was just the honest one. Outside, the reporters swarmed again, but this time they weren't interested in Hadley's performance. They wanted the real story. About Mom, about the fraud, about years of deception finally exposed. Dad touched my arm. I'm so sorry, Paula. For everything. I know, I said, watching Hadley being loaded into a police car, her carefully constructed world finally crumbling completely. What now? Edith asked as we walked down the courthouse steps. I thought about Mom's letter, about the truth finally coming to light, about justice delayed but not denied. Now, I said, we let karma finish what we started. Behind us, Hadley's screams faded as the police car pulled away, carrying her toward a future she'd built herself, one lie at a time. The morning sun streamed through Mom's stained glass windows, casting colorful shadows across the kitchen table where Dad and I sat with our coffee. The newspaper between us showed Hadley's sentencing on the front page, 8 years for fraud, with additional time for drug charges and assault. Have you visited her? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Dad shook his head. She won't see me, says I betrayed her. He traced the rim of his coffee cup. Maybe I did, by letting her become this person. The doorbell rang. Edith walked in carrying a box of Mom's old photos. We'd been sorting through them, keeping the real memories and discarding Hadley's staged ones. Look what I found. She pulled out a picture. Mom and me in the garden, dirt on our faces, laughing. No performance, no pretense. Just real joy. I remember that day, Dad said softly. Michelle always said the garden was where she could tell who her daughters really were. Hadley wouldn't touch the dirt, but Paula... He looked at me. You dug right in. My phone buzzed. A text from Mauricio. Kian took the plea deal. 5 years plus testimony against the medical fraud ring. You were right about there being more victims. The support group meets tonight, Edith reminded me. 3 more families coming forward about Hadley's scams. I'd started the group after discovering how many people Hadley had manipulated over the years, not just for money, but for attention, sympathy, power. Each meeting revealed new layers of her deception. Paula? Lincoln knocked on the back door. Got a minute? He handed me an envelope. The neighborhood association voted. They want to use your story for the community fraud prevention program, if you're willing to speak about it. I'll do it, I said without hesitation. People need to know how to spot manipulators like Hadley. And Kian, Dad added. Don't forget his part in this. The law firm certainly hasn't. I showed them another text from Mauricio. They're cooperating with investigations into 3 more cases of medical fraud he helped orchestrate. The doorbell rang again. Detective Morgan stood on the porch with a small package. Found these in Hadley's apartment during the final sweep, she said, handing me a stack of birthday cards. All from your mother to you, never delivered. I read through them slowly. Years of love and pride and hope, hidden away by a sister who couldn't stand sharing anyone's affection. There's something else, Detective Morgan continued. Hadley's asking to see you. No. Dad started to protest, but I held up my hand. What for? Says she has a confession about Mom's missing jewelry. The family heirlooms had vanished during Mom's final hospital stay. Another mystery that needed solving. I'll go, I decided. One last time. Want company? Edith offered. I looked around at my support system, Dad trying to make amends, Edith standing by me, Lincoln representing a community that finally saw the truth, Detective Morgan ensuring justice was served. No, I smiled. I can handle Hadley now. Later, as I watered Mom's garden, Dad joined me with the photo album. Michelle would be proud, he said. Not just of what you did, but how you did it. With truth, with evidence, with justice. No games, no manipulation. Like she taught me, I replied, touching a blooming rose bush, Mom's favorite. My phone chimed with another message. A friend sharing Hadley's last social media post before being sentenced. The truth will come out. Paula can't hide forever. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. What's funny? Dad asked. Hadley still thinks this is about hiding truth versus exposing it. She never understood that the truth was always there, waiting to be seen, like these flowers. I gestured to the garden. You just had to be willing to dig in the dirt to find it. And now? I looked at our home, my home, with its stained glass windows throwing rainbow lights across the porch. The porch where Hadley had staged her final dramatic scene, where I had finally stood my ground, where justice had eventually found its way. Now we plant new memories, I said, handling Mum's trowel. Want to help? Dad rolled up his sleeves, looking more like his old self than he had in years. Show me where to dig. As we worked in the garden, I thought about Mom's letter, about strength and truth and karma, about how some flowers bloom best after a storm has cleared the air. The evening sun caught Mom's wind chimes, sending their gentle music across the yard. In that moment, I felt her presence, her approval, her peace, and finally, completely my own.